Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome me, because I have not posted in ages. It has been, I don't know, a very long time since I filmed a video for this channel, but I wanted to do 25 and 2025, like basically all of the books that I want to read that are on my physical TBR, because there's a lot of books that I want to read that are coming out this year that I obviously don't own yet. But equally, I have a lot of books on my shelves that have been sitting there collecting dust, and I really need to read them. So I have 25 books, if I've counted correctly, that would be my priority books to definitely try to read this year. I don't know when I'm going to get to them this year. There's a lot of different types of genres in here too. Some of them I've had for a while, and that's kind of the reason why I want to read it. Some of them are sequels. Some of them are starts of series that I want to do, or even like a completion of a series as well, at least in my mind. All right, so there's no particular order, so let me just start at the top here. So this is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I've never read anything from V.H. Schwab, and obviously there's a lot of people fangirling around this author, and I don't know if it's rightly so or not. So I do have two books of those, and technically actually is the bigger one. I have Gallant, but this is the one that I feel like I see people talk about a little bit more. Some people find it really boring, and some people really enjoyed it. So I don't know where I'm gonna sit or fall, but yeah, it's a pretty hefty book, and hopefully it's gonna put me in a reading slump at some point. But this is definitely a book that I've had for over a year now, and I definitely want to read it. This one I actually started reading last year. I only got to page 34. I kind of liked what I was reading so far, but you know, you can't really judge a book after 30 pages. It's just not possible, at least in my view. This is Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Su Lin Tan. I've heard mixed feelings about this series. I think there's another book, and I don't know. I think it's the type of book that I'm going to personally enjoy. That's why I bought it, but hopefully I'm correct and I'm not massively disappointed. I felt like the language is a little bit stilted, and so far it was a little bit like, what is going on, because she's like in the moon and her mother's trapped there and she escapes, and it's a little strange, albeit, but she ends up in this sort of castle working as a servant. That's as far as I got, and I have no idea what happens, but it is a book that I have wanted to read for a long time, and I think I just wasn't in the mood to read it. That's why I put it down. So it was like a soft DNF. It wasn't like a hard DNF whatsoever. So definitely want to pick this back up and try to get through it. Okay, Foxglove, I definitely want to read. I read Belladonna, and I gave it 3.5, although to be fair, I really enjoyed that book, so probably it's closer to a 4. It kind of snuck up on me how much I enjoyed that book. Like, as I was reading it, I think the first half of the book, I was like, this is really not for me. And then I really enjoyed the end. I enjoyed what happened. And this obviously is a continuation of the story. And right at the end of the first book, you're introduced to Fate. And so this book, we're going to find out obviously more about Fate. I'm not going to give away like any spoilers or anything, but yeah, I really enjoyed the first book. And so I definitely wanted to pick this one up. I was just waiting it to come out on paperback, because I have the paperback version of Belladonna. And then obviously there's Wisteria that came out as well. And again, I'm waiting for the paperback to come out. But before I buy the third book, I want to read the second book, because I really enjoyed the first, and I think I'll enjoy this one probably a little bit better. So this is definitely like a high up there in terms of I really want to read this book. Okay, and then I've got The 7-Year Split. Slip by Ashley Poston. I've only read one book from her, Dead Romantics, and I thought it was fine. It was like a 3-star. I thought it was just a cute little romance, and I think this one's going to be the same. So probably start reading this maybe towards April, or I don't know, as we get into spring. I tend to like romances around that time, but who knows. But yeah, this is one that I've had for, I want to say like 9 months or so, 10 months, just sitting on my shelves. So I definitely want to try to get to it. All right, a little bit of a genre mix. This is a horror book, and it is a translated fiction. So it is I Am Behind You. It's actually part of a trilogy, I believe. And this is by John Advid Lintwitz, and I got this from a recommendation of somebody that I watch here on YouTube. And I generally like horror books. I just don't have a lot, and I don't know which ones to buy. So I'm slowly accumulating them as I go. And this one I've had for quite some time now, and I just haven't even like started reading it. So this is definitely one that I feel like this is the year that I have to read this book. Whether I like it or not, who knows? If I do like it, then I know that there's more in the series, so we'll just have to wait and see. Okay, and then I've only read one Emily Henry book. So I did pick up Happy Place last year, and I still have yet to read this. I really like Book Lovers. I think some people hated Book Lovers, but I gave it a 5-star. So I'm hoping that I like this book. I've seen people love this book. I've seen people say it's not as good as some of her other books. So I only really have the one book to compare her to. So before I buy any more from her, I wanted to read this and just see if she's definitely the type of author that I like. I think she is, but I'm trying to not buy tons and tons of books this year. Okay, and then Quicksilver. How could I not? I was not going to buy this book. I honestly should have just read the Audible version of it. But this one is everywhere, whether you hate it or you love it. People have been talking about it, and there's a few people that I watched that really loved this book, and then a few people that absolutely trashed it. So I really tried to not listen to too much in terms of like spoiling the book for myself. I did end up buying it. It's a massive hardback though. I wish I was able to get a paperback, but I wasn't. So this one, I'm hoping it's good. It's like, oh my God, it's like almost 600 pages though. So I'm waiting for the moment that I'm ready to read a really long book, because recently I really have not wanted to read long books, but I do want to read this at some point this year just to see what the hype is about. Okay, and then we have Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. I've never read anything from Abby Jimenez, and a lot of people had this on their favorites from last year. And then some people didn't like it, so I just want to see how I feel about it. You can never really trust. I feel like with romances, you can't really trust what people say because everyone's tastes are so different. When I find a book super corny, other people love it, and then obviously vice versa. I love books that people find really corny and ridiculous. So I think you just have to be in the right mindset to read romance as well. I'm not a huge fan of the idea that this is an age gap romance, but I'm here for it. I'm open-minded. I'm gonna see how it goes. Okay, and I have a classic here, Wuthering Heights. I've never read Wuthering Heights, and I really want to read this. I picked this up early last year. It was in a bookstore, and I just got it for like £1 or whatever. It was a charity bookstore in England. Yeah, £1. And I just want to read it. It actually is like, the writing is tiny in this book. You kind of think, oh, this is a tiny little book. But no, I think this is pretty dense. Like, it's very dense in here. And it's just a story that I've kind of grown up with, like watching the adaptations, but I don't fully think I've ever watched them all the way through. I just know it's a tragic love story. And that's as much as I know. Probably quite melodramatic and whatnot, but I have it and I really kind of want to read it at some point. So I think maybe this is the year that I just sit down and I read Wuthering Heights. Okay, then we have The Spell Shop. So this one I picked up towards the late of last year. This is from Sarah Beth Durst. This is like a nice little cozy, I think, / mystery, and maybe there's a little romance from what I recall people talking about. When I picked it up, I really wasn't in the mood to read a cozy romance or a cozy little book, so I bought it and then I was like, I don't want to read that. But at the point that I do want to read a little cozy fantasy book, I desperately want to get into this. I think it sounds a lot of fun. It sounds really sweet and cute, and it's on my shelves, so I want to read it this year. Okay, and then I have the Atlas 6. So I've had this for, I don't know, 2 years now on my shelves, and I still have yet to read it. I haven't read anything from Olivia Blake, and this is part of a series or a trilogy or whatever. I mean, I know there's other books in here, and I know that some people don't like this and some people do like it. So I have it. I feel like it's time for me to read it one way or another, figure it out if I like it or not. All right, then I have Rouge. So I read Bunny from the same author, Mona Awad, and I gave it 5-star. I absolutely loved it. I've heard that the people don't really like this book as much, but I figured, you know what? I might not be like everyone else. Maybe I'll love this book too. So I picked this up last year and I really want to read it. So this is definitely a book that's like high up there in terms of priority for me to read this year. I just expect it to be a little bit odd and weird, and sometimes I like those types of books. Okay, then we have a sort of horror book here. This is Leech, and I picked this up like 2 years ago and I still have yet to read it. I have since seen a lot of people say it was really good, so I did actually think about reading it this last Halloween that went by, but I didn't end up getting to it because I had a few other books that I was reading. But yeah, it's kind of like about a parasite and like scientists, and there's some weird stuff going on. I'm not entirely sure, but I don't know. It's not a huge long book either, so I feel like it's a good book to get through for when I want to read a book like this, and I feel like this is the time, well, not the time of year, but this is the year for me to read this. Okay, and then another weird book. This is from Eliza Clark. I think this is a set of short stories. It's called She's Always Hungry. And again, it's going to be like obscure, weird little short stories. And I've not really read a book of short stories, and I feel like it might be a good introduction to this author. It also sounds really interesting as well. And I like the concept of it, that it's a little bit odd and weird and, I don't know, disturbing. So I picked this up late last year, and I definitely want to read it this year. This one seems to be very popular, and I think the second book is already out. So I've got Spark of the Everflame, and again, I got this from a recommendation from somebody I watch on YouTube, and it's just going to be like a little romantasy, I believe, but I think it's like a good one. So I don't know. I don't really know too much about this. I think the second book is apparently better than the first one. Only the first one, and I try not to buy like a whole series this year or, you know, the last few months, because it doesn't really work out for me when I do that. So yeah, I'm going to try to read this, see how I do. If I really enjoy it, then I'll know that I can pick up the next books in the series. Okay, and then this one is a sequel. So this is The Blood Orchid, and this is the second book from The Scarlet Alchemist. This is by Kylie Lee Baker. I really love The Scarlet Alchemist. I think I gave it 5 stars last year, and she has another book coming out, which is like Bat Eater. It's coming out this year, and I really, really want to read that because I genuinely enjoyed The Scarlet Alchemist. And this is just a continuation of that story. Now, I don't want to spoil what happens in The Scarlet Alchemist, but there's a lot of necromancy and bringing people back from the dead and things like that, and like a whole load of other stuff. And yeah, there's a lot in that book, but I highly recommend it. And I haven't read the second one. I've had this one for a good, like, I don't know, 5-6 months now. So I really, really want to get into it, get back into the story, see what happens. I'm hoping it doesn't disappoint though. I think I'm a little bit worried that I'm going to go into this and not like as much as the first one, which could definitely happen. But yeah, I have this one, and it's one of the top priority books for this year for me to read. Okay, then I have one more stack over here. So I have Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood. So I've read 3 books from her now, and 2 of them I didn't really enjoy. I kind of enjoyed The Bride. I gave that 4 stars. And I have this one, and this is her YA debut. So, you know, I feel like maybe I'll enjoy it, kind of like YA novels. So this is, like, I'm assuming about chess players. But yeah, I'm going to read it. It's on my shelves, and I just want to see, like, what do I really feel about Ali Hazelwood? Because at this point, I've only liked 1 out of the 3 books that I've read. So if I like this one, it'll be a little bit more even, 50-50 split, and then I'll potentially buy another book from her. But if I don't like this one, then I might just give up on her completely as an author. I'm not entirely sure. So this is kind of more for me as a test to see, well, what do I like from her? And if I do genuinely enjoy it, then I'll potentially buy more from her. Okay, and then I have not read A Court of Silver Flames. I don't know what happened, but I have all the books from the ACOTAR series, and I loved some of them. I actually just reread, but kind of listening to them on Audible, the first 2 books, so A Court of Thorns and Roses, and then A Court of Mist and Fury. Gave those 5 stars again as a reread. Haven't gone into the other 2 yet, but obviously this is the 5th book, and there's a lot of talk about the next book potentially coming out at some point, which would be interesting. But this follows Nesta and Cassian, and I think as a character, and please don't hate me if this is going to hurt you, but I liked Nesta, but I didn't ever really care for Cassian. So I think the fact that I knew this book was going to center around them, I kind of lost interest, but I never ended up reading it. And so I think it's about time that I actually try to read this book. I haven't even read like the first page. So I don't know. It's just like one of those things where I read the whole series, aside from the last book that obviously is available. And it's stupid. So it's been sitting on my shelves for like 2 years now, and I feel like I should read it. It's also an absolute enormous, so maybe that's been putting me off. It's like almost 800 pages, but we're gonna do it this year. I'm finally gonna read this book. A lot of people love this book, so you know, there's a lot of like expectations, but also I'm kind of going into it thinking maybe I won't like it because I don't think I like Cassian, but who knows? Okay, I've got more here. So 7 Days in June. I really want to read this. It's from Tia Williams. I think this is probably going to be a little sad, but I might be completely wrong. I don't really know. It's like contemporary romance, but the way that I'm viewing it, it might be a little bit like, so I'm waiting to read this because I don't think it's like a happy-go-lucky romance, but I might be completely wrong with that. But yeah, I have this on my shelves and I really want to read it. Okay, and then this is a one where this is a part of a 4 or 5 book series. This is Trial of the Sun Queen. This is more of a new purchase for me. I bought it like, I don't know, 5-6 months ago, so it's pretty new for me. And I picked this up because apparently like the 3rd or the 4th book is really good. Oh, and I think the 4th book was like nominated in the Good Choice Awards, but not that that really means anything these days, let's be honest. However, I thought, well, you know what? I'm not going to buy the whole series, but let me get the first book, see how it goes, if I like it. If I do like it, then obviously I can buy the rest of the books. So yeah, this is just more of a test run, but I feel like I should try to read it this year just to see how I feel. Okay, and then loads of people love this one, Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I never read The Martian, but I've watched the movie. I'm not a huge fan, I think. I mean, maybe I am, but I don't really read sci-fi. So this in itself is more of a strange book on my shelves. It kind of sits alone in its own little genre. And a lot of people love this book that I watch that watch a lot of different types of genres, as well as like fantasy and romance. They also love this book. So there must be something about this book that kind of speaks to a lot of people. So I'm going to go in. I have no idea anything about this. I've thankfully watched no spoiler videos on it. So yeah, I have no idea what happens, but I have it and I feel like it might be the type of book that I like. Maybe it won't be. It might be a good introduction to sci-fi potentially, but anyway, yeah. So this is definitely on the list to try and read this year. Okay, and then the next one is a book that I actually already tried to read and I found it really, really hard to read. So this is When the Moon Hatched, and obviously the second book is out or it's coming out. A lot of people love this book, and then I've seen a lot of people say they didn't like it. Just from like the first few pages, because I think I read the prologue and then I was like, I don't understand anything. From what people have said, you have to give it some time, and then because you kind of go into the book not really understanding anything, but then it kind of all ties together. And I've seen a lot of people say give it time. So I haven't given this any time. I'm a little bit wary because, you know, if a book doesn't really like get there, or I don't really like the language or the way it's written straight away, it's kind of hard to get past that. So this one would be more for me to just try and read. It might end up being a DNF regardless, but I try not to DNF books until I get to like page 100 or so, because I think that's generally when you kind of realize, is this going to go anywhere? Is the writing, can you get over the writing, whatever. But yeah, anyway. So I got When the Moon Hatched. Obviously, if I really love it, then I can get the next book. But yeah, this is a strange one because loads of people love it and then loads of people don't love it. So okay, I've got 3 more here. So let's do this one. This is She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan. This currently I think has 2 books, maybe 3. Oh, again, I only picked up the first book and I bought this obviously last year. I really want to read it, see how I do. If I enjoy it, then I would be very interested in getting the second book. But again, I don't know too much about this. So it's more of a shot in the dark, but I have it on my shelves and I've been wanting to read it. Something's been stopping me. So this one I'm going to try to read this year. And then I have The Grace of Kings. So this is the point where I did buy the whole series. I did. And I wish I hadn't. So obviously this is the first one. I don't know what the actual series is called, but this is from Ken Liu. And I have never read anything from them. And I have heard this is pretty dense. Like it reads like a historical fiction. And I think it might be a little tricky to get into it, but everyone says like the rest of the series is really good. Just the first book is harder to get into. So Anyway, I feel like I have to like start reading this because I bought it and I do want to read it because I've seen a lot of people say it's really good, and maybe I'm into high fantasy, maybe I'm not, but anyway, so this one definitely I want to get to at some point this year and see if I want to obviously carry on with the series. If I don't want to carry on with the series, then I know I just need to let them go, but yeah. Anyway, this is kind of like, did I make a mistake or not? Okay, and the last book that I have on my shelves that I really want to read is Under the Whispering Door by T.J. Klune. I have read House on the Cerulean Sea. I can't even say that. And then there's the second book, which I haven't bought yet because I've been waiting for the paperback version to come out. But I did buy this last year, or 2 years ago now, and I really want to read this. I really like the writing from the other book of his, and I just think that it kind of snuck up on me, that story, and I really wasn't expecting it or realizing it where it was going, and I really, really genuinely enjoyed it. And I think this one is another one where I just want to go into it not really knowing anything. I think this is about the afterlife or something, or being like an uplifting story about a life spent at the office and a death spent building a home. I don't know, it just sounds like a nice, cute little cozy read again. So definitely want to read this at some point this year. All right, those are my 25 for 2025, all of the books on my physical TBR that I want to read. Have you read any of these? Can you recommend any of them that maybe I shouldn't read? Or, I don't know, I mean, are any of them really bad? Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!